we committed some time ago to having a platform for residents of our city, business owners, organization leaders, to be able to share with us what's happening on the ground in our city with regard to the so-called immigration enforcement actions from the federal government. This morning, I'm very happy that CD5 has organized a good discussion for us that we will begin at this moment. Councilmember Yaroslavsky.
Thank you, Council President. Good morning, everyone. Over the past few weeks, we've all been deeply moved, or months rather, deeply moved by testimony from immigrant rights groups like Churla, Harris-Dawson, and the ACLU about the impact of the Trump administration's unconstitutional ICE raids across our city and our region. Today we're going to hear from faith leaders about how these raids have affected their congregations and the work they're doing.
We are part of the Industrial Areas Foundation organizing tradition, which goes back to Saul Alinsky in Chicago in 1940, a period when war raged in Europe, fascism was on the rise at home and abroad, and there was a real question about whether democracy would survive. And some would say that was a time not unlike our own. The onset of this latest phase of immigration raids in Los Angeles on June 6th and the ensuing deployment of the National Guard and U.S. Marines have terrorized families and communities across Southern California. Every day brings news stories of people who've been grabbed off the street, whisked away in vans, and transported to whereabouts unknown. A few of these stories appear in mainstream media, others are posted on social media, and many are only shared in person-to-person accounts. And so we are honored to be invited to share just a few of these stories of people who have been impacted by the raids in our community.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the associate pastor of the Twin Parishes of Precious Blood in St. Kevin, as Robert had mentioned. On average, the parishioners of these two parishes would be 50 to 60% Hispanic and 40 to 50% being Asians, a mixture of Filipino, Korean, and Indonesian, with the Filipino being the larger part. Mass attendance has gone down from 40 to 50% in the two parishes since the ICE raids began. There was also a plan to do religion education classes online because of this, but parents decided to continue the RE classes in person. However, attendance has gone down by 10%. For those who come to Sunday Mass, many children come unaccompanied by their parents because of fear of being picked up by ICE. The Cardinal McIntyre Fund allocation for one of the parishes of $5,000 has been depleted, helping the immigration lawyer fees of our parishioners. In one of the parishes, the parishioners have decided to close the gates of the church 15 minutes into the Mass on Sundays to prevent ICE agents from entering if they raid the church during the Mass. One of the parish has 3 parishioners who have been detained by ICE that we know of. 2 parishioners were picked up by ICE in their place of work in June 2025, one in the Fashion District in downtown LA, and the other at a factory in Huntington Park. The 3rd parishioner was picked up by ICE at a Home Depot in August. Out of the 3 parishioners detained, one of them was able to post bail, but is not allowed to work. He is routinely checked by ICE through a phone app. When he was first released, he was monitored through an ankle monitor, which was later replaced by the phone app. His next court hearing is scheduled for 2028, but immigration officers told him that he can still be detained if he is caught by ICE outside his house, and this is why he no longer leaves the house. His wife has not left the house since June. He has 4 children, the youngest being 8 years old and the other 3 in their 20s. 2 of the older children are employed. One of the detained parishioners is a mother of a 6-year-old. She is still in Adelanto. Her court hearing was moved to December due to an illness. The husband claims that the wife had fallen seriously ill while in detention, but was not attended to immediately by detention officials. Only the husband is looking after the daughter. The husband is only able to work 3 days a week. The 3rd parishioner has 2 sons in their 20s. He is still in detention in Adelanto. News from a friend yesterday said that there may be a possibility of being able to post bail this week. In both parishes, we have 2 parishioners who had opted to self-deport for fear of being taken violently by ICE agents. Several parishioners who are legally here no longer go out with family as frequently as they used to because they are either Hispanic or Filipino. On a personal note, as a missionary, I served in the Congo, in Mozambique, and Africa, and in various parts of the Philippines. In these locations, I worked primarily with the poor and indigenous communities, a role that frequently brought me into contact with uniformed personnel like soldiers and police officers. While these encounters were mostly confrontational, they were nonviolent, and I consistently spoke out on behalf of the poor and indigenous peoples. These experiences have left such a deep mark on me that the first emotion I now feel upon encountering uniformed personnel is fear, immediately followed by the urge to flee. I slowly began to manage this fear after arriving in California in February 2024 last year. In time, I grew used to seeing the LAPD around our neighborhood, for example, and even had friendly conversations with them when the parishes requested assistance. That initial fear, however, immediately returned when the raids began. In June, parishioners told me that ICE agents were just 2 blocks away from our parish, which was the reason local restaurants had closed even before noon. I went for a walk in that direction to see for myself. Seeing the masked uniformed men with their guns from a distance, I froze and was afraid to go any further. The realization that struck me was that I am not white, and based on everything being reported in the news, it seemed that even my Roman collar would not be of any help. Despite finding it uncomfortable, I have been wearing the collar more often each time I go out. I have convinced myself that it can provide a level of protection for a foreigner like me, however flimsy it may be. I volunteered twice with CLU, Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, to observe immigration court hearings at the federal building. During one of those visits, I saw a man arrested by 4 or 5 ICE agents, twice his size, as he stepped out of the courtroom. I could not believe what I was seeing. The man's only fault was wanting a better life for himself and his family. I looked on helplessly, struggling to make sense of the scene unfolding before my eyes in the land of the brave and the free. I still cannot believe that the country which once championed human rights abroad is now violating those rights domestically. The whole situation feels dystopian. I sometimes jokingly say that it's beginning to feel like the Philippines. I sincerely hope no officials from the Philippine consulate are present here, or that the word of this comment doesn't reach them, or I might be hearing from them. But since it's on YouTube, I think they'll get wind of it anyhow. I could eventually get used to this. This is, after all, not new to me. But last I checked, this is the United States of America. This should not be happening.
On a weekly basis, 1 LA IAF member institutions across Los Angeles County host a total of 37 Spanish language religious services, which were attended by over 10,000 parishioners on average. Since the June 2025 immigration raids in Los Angeles, these institutions have seen a 30 to 40% decline of their mass attendance and participation. And in addition to Spanish, our institutions also celebrate religious services in Vietnamese, Tagalog, and Korean. In downtown Los Angeles, the following stories have been shared with us. A 1 LA IAF member institution ministers to thousands of weekly parishioners. They host 7 masses every Sunday, all of which are in Spanish. Their parishioners are primarily Latino, many of whom are immigrants from Latin America. Known as a key institution for immigrants in Los Angeles, they have seen a visible change in attendance and participation in weekly masses. Since the raids began, they have seen a 30 to 40% drop in attendance each week. In the Roman Catholic tradition, the rite of baptism is the sacrament that incorporates a person into the community of faith. According to religious teaching, it is done in front of parents, godparents, extended family, and the larger church community. The church in downtown LA normally celebrates 300 baptisms each week, bringing in large groups of families from across the city, county, and state. This church has seen a 30% decline in weekly baptisms since the onset of the immigration raids in June. And the baptisms that are still being performed have seen a substantial drop in attendance, over 50%. These celebrations, which would usually fill up all the pews with relatives and church members, have now seen a dramatic drop in attendance, with only the first few pews of the church filled during the service. They have reported that a sacramental service, which typically would bring in a whole family to worship, now has only the parents and godparents attending. Families have canceled scheduled baptisms to wait and see if it becomes safe enough to attend church amidst the ongoing raids. The cancellation of baptisms and the drop in attendance for weekly services have contributed to a significant loss of financial support to the church. Baptisms are the largest source of income for this church. Religious education coordinators have reported an increase in anxiety and fear amongst their students directly related to the increase in immigration raids. Students have shared they are afraid of their parents being deported, while some making plans to drop out of school in case they need to become the primary caregivers for their younger siblings. Religious coordinators have had to utilize religious instruction time to instead host workshops on family preparation plans for families with undocumented parents instead of time to study scripture. That is in the religious realm. And as we all know, in the secular world of education, enrollment is significantly down in LAUSD. Our parishioners and congregants tell us that their schools are declined by as much as 30%, with north of the 10 freeway being identified as such a particular area. A congregant recently told me that at a staff training, the UTLA rep mentioned that families are scared that ICE is in disguise at their children's bus stops, and they are wary of unfamiliar faces in the neighborhood. As we know, many teachers and principals have gotten training on what to do if ICE comes to their school, and these efforts to help and pay attention, setting up a rep at each school to address these issues, both confirms the greatest fears of parents and of their students, even as they lean in to help, but it continually says to all families involved, truly there is no longer a safe space for you. At a graduation in June, a congregant mentioned that the teachers regretted not live streaming the graduation because many Latino families did not show up because they heard that ICE was patrolling the neighborhood and the surrounding areas that day. Larger LAUSD schools, which had overflow spaces for graduation, barely filled half of the first hall to begin with. As we know, teachers are not only educators, they are the pastoral presence for their families. And they continually hold a sense of powerlessness as they wonder, will we be able to protect our students? And how will we provide extra mental health support for our students who are already experiencing trauma in their homes and in their cities and in their neighborhoods due to the immigration experience, exacerbated now by ICE raids and presence, and are afraid to travel to school? We know the incredible effort that our teachers and administrators are making, and still all it reminds us is that we are not in control and we need to find a way to be. In East Los Angeles County, a 1LA member institution hosts a weekly worship service that brings in over 300 parishioners from across LA County. These worship services are conducted in Spanish, made up of Latino members, many of whom are immigrants. After reports of ICE raids and operations in nearby areas like El Monte, Downey, and downtown LA, the worship group decided to cancel their weekly meetings, a step that has not been taken since the stay-at-home orders during the COVID-19 pandemic. Once the worship group restarts these services, recently they saw a dramatic drop in attendance from over 300 participants per week to now only 25 people. The church has also reported a drop in assistance from Eucharistic ministers, lectors, and ushers due to fears of immigration enforcement operations, which creates a logistical barrier to performing weekly Mass services for hundreds of parishioners. In general, we know that 20 to 25% of priests and nuns here in Los Angeles are either on a visa or they are permanent residents, and they are afraid of what may happen to them. In MacArthur Park and Westlake, one LA member institution located in these neighborhoods have seen consistent ICE operations within the boundaries of their parish. The church is primarily attended by immigrants, with 50% of the parishioners in this church being Latino, the other half Filipino. Parishioners share that the apartment buildings next to the church have been visited by ICE agents on multiple occasions. They have seen ICE operations occur within 1 mile of the church, at bus stops, stores, and other public areas. In July 2025, military presence at MacArthur Park sparked huge fears amongst parishioners in the area, leading to continued drop in attendance and participation in church services. These churches have faced a 30 to 40% drop in attendance of weekly Mass services. Quinceañera cancellations because family members and guests were afraid of attending services, also due to the high volume of ICE sightings. They canceled a neighborhood procession that would have honored the 102nd year of the founding anniversary of the church due to the risk it would pose for parishioners who are afraid of being seen in public. And the cancellation upended a year's worth of planning and altered church fundraising plans. At this church, a longtime member has been arrested and detained during the ICE raids in the Fashion District of Los Angeles. Increased ICE sightings and immigration arrests have led the community and the church to use its own funding to print out hundreds of Know Your Rights materials. They continue to emphasize the stress and anxiety caused by the militarized and aggressive raids in the area, which have led to many instances of self-deportation amongst longtime and key parishioners. The church hosted private farewell blessings for ministry leaders who had over 20 years of service to the church, but were deciding to self-deport out of fear for immigration raids. These ministry leaders held invaluable roles related to sacramental and financial responsibilities inside of the church. With a drop in attendance, loss of longtime leader parishioners, and a reduction of celebrations, the churches have been harmed financially and administratively. At another congregation, undocumented employees in that organization who are essential for making the faith-based community work each and every day have injuries that they are trying to treat on their own because the fear of accessing health care or asking for disability is so great that they worry that it is on the brink of deportation, so they would sooner bear their pain and suffering and continue to ask to be employed than seek the health care they ask for and need. And this faith community in particular is struggling how to live by the values of compassion and care which we afford to all of our members and employees, while still being able to respect the rights and the decisions of our employees that they want to stay essentially invisible and make their pain invisible and stay employed for the sake of their family. Finally, in South Los Angeles, one final congregation reported that with a mix of Black and Latino parishioners, as they held a graduation ceremony for their young adults on the church property, they realized that due to fears of immigration raids throughout the area, the families of the graduates, for all of the community members, felt uneasy about holding that celebration publicly, even though it was within their church community. And this church has had to increase security measures and organize a more secure perimeter around the church and events such as these. Last but not least, before I pass it on to Sheila Thomas, as Councilmember Yaroslavsky said, the commandment not to oppress the stranger is mentioned throughout our faith tradition, particularly in the Torah, 36 times. It tells us not to oppress the stranger. It is built into the foundation of how God expects us to build ethical and holy societies. We are judged by how we treat the weakest and most vulnerable, the orphan, the widow, the poor, and yes, the stranger who lives with you and by your side. Faith communities cannot be the only ones in this city to struggle and speak out in our effort to build what we call in Judaism a kehila kedosha, a holy and sacred community. This responsibility is upon all of us, and I want to thank you, council members, for partnering with us as we continue to strive to build our holy and sacred community. I turn it over to Sheila Thomas for our closing comments.
We are enriched with Hispanic culture, Belizean culture, and Hispanic culture, and African and Belizean. We are predominantly Black Catholic church. We share the pain that everyone that you heard of these stories. We are so used to racial profiling because of through the spirit of Jim Crow. Growing up in South LA, I knew the pain of my brothers or my father leaving the house driving by being Black and being profiled. So today we stand here in solidarity with all of our sisters and brothers who are suffering the same pain that we did through the Jim Crow laws, which the Jim Crow laws still live in spirit. So as you heard all the stories here, this is how we became with our freedom schools. Our freedom schools birthed out of our July 4th celebration. Myself, I had never celebrated July the 4th because I didn't believe in our freedom story. But to the effect of all of this, 1LA launched a countrywide freedom school strategy at St. Gabriel Mission on July the 4th, 2025. Over 200 people attended from across 20 community institutions, schools, churches, congregations, labor unions, and nonprofits. The goal of 1LA Freedom School is to empower people by informing and training them to understand and assert their constitutional rights in the face of the ICE raids that are undermining civil liberties and terrorizing families. Standing in solidarity helps us raise awareness and provides hope and courage to act by instilling a sense of agency and civic engagement in the pursuit of human dignity and rights. What is a freedom school? 1LA Freedom Schools are inspired by the freedom schools of the Civil Rights Movement, which were organized beginning in the summer of 1964 to educate and empower communities as a response to civic inequalities. They were designed to cultivate habits of free thinking and ideas of free society works. The decentralized, flexible, community-based model that these schools pioneer engaged community members based on the barriers impacting them, exactly what 1LA has done throughout the Los Angeles County since July the 4th with Freedom Schools. A 1LA Freedom School is a localized group of community leaders who will meet consistently over time using a growing and flexible curriculum to the moments in Los Angeles. This is a long-term strategy expected to build and grow through the coming years and throughout this creating ongoing civic formation. In the use of the train-the-trainer model to teach community leaders the curriculum so that we can continue to learn, teach others inside the Freedom Schools and community institutions. Current sessions have included Introduction to Freedom Schools, Knowing Your Rights, Family Preparedness, Access to Health Care, Constitutional Law 101, and How to Respond to ICE, which was in the form of creative thinking, skits, role-playing. What are the impacts of Freedom Schools? Since the launch of July the 4th, one has held over 25 Freedom Schools across the Los Angeles County with 1,000 participants at church basements, synagogues, backyards, school classrooms, living rooms, and small community theater. 1LA's Freedom Schools are forming community leaders to engage and preserve democracy. We're overcoming fear and isolation. We're building power. We're reinforcing community institution missions, leadership development. Within the last week, one of our sister parishioners was faced with another ICE raid. Democracy, do we call this democracy? No, because on Friday, October the 10th, Don Jose saw ICE agents swarm a car wash with employees, with agents, masking their faces and lacking forms of identification. They were armed, wore bulletproof vests, military-style clothing, and proceeded to chase most of the employees, all too familiar. Detaining several of them, treating some of them with extreme violence. Don Jose immediately sent out a text to other parishes to let them know of this ICE age. 8 employees at that time were detained. One of the 8 employees was a U.S. citizen, and 2 of them had work permits, but they were detained anyway, shackled, and transported in white, unmarked vans. Winter Lake Freedom Schools help all of us practice democracy. I would like to invite all of our councilmen here to attend one of Lake's Freedom Schools. I would like to have Heather Hutt visit Holy Name at a 1LA meeting. I would like to see our president, Harris-Dawson, come to St. Bridget's one day to a 1LA meeting, and all others that are here to come to a 1LA Freedom School. So see you all soon.
What do you say to those who claim to be people of faith while supporting policies that criminalize migration and separate parents from their children?
That's a difficult question because they always get angry at me when I remind them of what Jesus has taught and what the Pope even has been teaching us. And I just keep reminding them that we are children of God and we are disciples of Jesus Christ. And we are followers of Jesus and not of our political leaders. And I just ask them to pray and reflect and re-examine themselves who indeed is their Lord. Is it their political leaders or is it Jesus? And it's just up to there. It's useless to debate with people because it's not going to get anywhere. So just remind them to, ask them to pray and reflect and examine themselves who indeed they consider God.
What words can you share to invite people in to the faith community?
Well, what I tell them is, this is not the will of God. This is people hurting each other. And because the relations that we have is not based on God's love. It's based on greed and selfishness. And I always ask them, and this is, I don't only tell people, I tell myself as well, to count your blessings and look at the little blessings that we have. People volunteering to donate something for the family, for example, whose mother is in Adelanto. For example, someone who all of a sudden warns people to better hide because ICE agents are nearby. I mean, that's where God is. Don't look for God in the big things where big ICE raids, but God is in the people trying to help each other in the midst of all these struggles.
Good afternoon. My name is Keely, and I'm with Inner City Struggle as a young adult leader and renter from District 14. It is time to reform LARSO and cap the rent at 3%. I specifically want to call on Council President Harris-Dawson to champion your working class constituents by prioritizing LARSO. With the end of the year approaching and many council recess in the near future, it is imperative that LARSO is agendized in full council immediately after being passed out of housing and homelessness, which we hope to happen next week. Right now, renter constituents across your district and the city are drowning under high rents, ICE rates, and losing income. Both of my parents struggle to pay rent already, so we cannot afford another rent increase. We cannot wait until next year for this update to be passed. We also invite council members Nazarian, Mike Oscar, and Yaroslavsky to commit your support to class LARSO platform, cap rent and 3%. Please keep in mind the working class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Christina Boyer here from Public Counsel and Keep LA Housed, here again to talk about LARSA. I want to impress upon the importance of getting this done as soon as possible. Most people are on a February rent increase schedule because that's when the COVID protection sunsetted, so if we have any shot at all for those tenants getting a fair rent increase, we have to act immediately. Agendize this in housing and homelessness, and please agendize it as soon as possible after in full council. I want to say how this will be the single most effective cost-neutral method to combat homelessness. I want to also point out we have all been showing up for almost 2 years because this is dire to our communities. Even Beacon Economics, commissioned by the California Apartment Association, say that the annual rent increase adjustment isn't the main source of their profits, it's vacancy decontrol. This won't negatively affect development nor small landlords. We are in community with them. Please do right by your constituents, adopt the Keep LA Housed recommendations. Thank you.
Item 13 is for another worthless 90-day homeless feasibility study. This sounds like one of the countless so-called feasibility studies Raman has introduced. Raman has done absolutely nothing on her time on the Sleazy Council along with Padilla, and is another Raman-type worthless motion. But to suggest feasibility studies and sit there shuffling papers, collecting their $25,000 per month while homelessness rages on year after year after year. The fact is that these incompetent clowns like Raman and Padilla don't have any homeless or any other type of solutions, and the feasibility study of item 13 is just more clown show activity, just like the 40 people standing around doing nothing in this chamber of homeless horrors 4 hours per day, 3 days a week. In my opinion, item 13 should include funding that will produce a feasibility study due in 90 days as to why homeless funds are being siphoned off to fund the over 40 people standing around in the chamber of incompetent homeless horrors, doing absolutely nothing 4 hours a day, 3 days per week. Item 14 is another worthless item for a political appointment to the ULA Oversight Committee. Another political appointment that will produce absolutely nothing but the continued raging homelessness of tens of thousands of people dying slowly on our streets daily. These homeless political appointments are just the best their clowns can do versus competently increasing the commerce and jobs of the city to increase productive prosperity. Instead, we have the incompetent Dawson Sleazy Council of Corruption sitting there voting on political appointments in order to direct the ULA homeless funds to their political friends and to themselves versus to the people of LA. I demand a no vote from this worthless Sleazy Council on this worthless item ULA funds appointment item. There are no meaningful items on this agenda because these clowns bankrupt the city by giving LAPD $1 billion budget increase. Take the money back, clowns. These items should receive a no vote if out on bail, 12-count indicted and on trial embezzling polygamous criminal Curran Price is allowed to vote on his wife's business with the city. General public comment.
Okay, you have 1 minute.
Public, when you fire clowns, you get a circus. Because these clowns bankrupt the city, giving $1 billion increase to LAPD. The clowns won't take the money back because LAPD makes tremendous campaign contributions to Sleazy Dawson, Monica Lewinsky-Rodriguez, and racist Asian John Lee. $1 billion budget emergency, tens of thousands homeless epidemic emergency, $275 billion fire damage emergency. Sleazy D, CD8 has the highest incarceration rate, homeless rate, unemployment rate in the entire country, over 12.5%. CD8 is a food desert. Sleazy D has spent over $10 million on luxury offices for himself while tens of thousands are homeless. I formally protest these presentations, the mass incompetence of these clowns, and I demand Sleazy D's resignation. I demand an apology from Dimwit Nithya Raman and okay.
Hoy estoy aquí para apoyar el punto 5.
I am here today in support of item 5
para programas y ayudas legales para inquilinos.
for programs and legal assistance for renters.
también estoy aquí para apoyar a Larso.
I am also here to support Larso.
Es tiempo
It's time.
que Nazarín, Tin,
It's time for Nazarian, for
Kathy's-
Tim, Kathy,
hagan algo por un control de renta.
it's time for them to do something about rent control.
Y especialmente al Harris,
And especially Harris.
que se ponga a trabajar por la gente trabajadora.
It's time for you to work for the working class.
Yo les voy a contar algo. ¿Ustedes han escuchado a los líderes religiosos?
I'm going to tell you something. You guys were here listening to these religious leaders.
Cuando un día fuimos a una acción con ACE, estaban 3 millonarios, billonarios que casi son dueños de Los Ángeles.
One time when we were doing some action for ACE, we saw like 3-4 billionaires that are basically now the owners of Los Angeles.
Uno de ellos sabían que también la educación pública está en peligro.
One of them knew that even public education was in danger.
Está coludido con Asociación de Charter de California.
And he is colluding with the Charter Association of California.
Creo que los líderes religiosos...
Speaker, your time has expired. We have to move on to the next speaker.
Estoy en apoyo al punto número 5 y les pido a ustedes que también lo hagan.
Yeah, I'm here to support item number 5, and I'm trying to ask you to do the same.
Los inquilinos que están siendo desalojados van a necesitar apoyo de abogados, protección para ellos en toda la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
The renters that are being evicted are going to need legal representation to protect them in all of Los Angeles.
Mi nombre es Tomasa Martínez.
My name is Tomasa Martinez.
Soy miembro de ACE.
I am a member of ACE.
Vivo en el Distrito 14, en Boyle Heights.
I live in District 14 in Boyle Heights.
Y soy miembro del concilio vecinal de mi comunidad.
I am a member of the neighborhood council of my community.
Ya lo dijo el padre que se acaba de ir. Ustedes no son Dios, ni son dioses. Pónganse a trabajar, por favor. El pueblo los puso aquí. Hagan algo. Hagan algo por la gente que se está quedando en la calle. Yo tengo miedo de quedarme en la calle porque me suba la renta, porque me corren donde vivo, ya que llevo 15 años ahí.
Do something about this. Just like the father said, you guys aren't gods. You guys are here because the people put you here. So do something, because people are going to end up on the street. I am at risk of being on the street even though I've been here for 15 years.
Ahorita estoy en tratamiento psicológico debido al acoso que he vivido en mi departamento.
Right now I'm getting psychological therapy due to the harassment that I had to live through while living in my apartment.
Le llamo específicamente al presidente del consejo, señor Harris-Dawson,
I'm calling specifically on the president of the council, Mr. Harris-Dawson,
para que sea un campeón de la clase trabajadora de su distrito y dé prioridad a Larso con el fin de año acercándose y muchos recesos del consejo en el porvenir.
I'm asking you to be a champion for the working class people. I am asking you to please implement this for Larso, which is coming up, and to do this by the end of the year, given that we are going to face many pauses and recess.
Thank you. Today I'm talking about the infiltration and corruption of the city by Scientology and the Scientology's illegal tactics and policies regarding the safe pointing of the city, of the members of the city. Last time I was here, as part of my comment, I distributed books to specific people who I hope you had. Somebody here, I hope one of you read that book, Child X. This is literally evidence of children from the beginning of Scientology here in Los Angeles, like myself, born and raised in a slave trafficking cult organization, hiding behind a religious status. So here you want to have a right and a rule for all religions to be protected, while Scientology is literally trafficking children under the city's eyes through permits. Kirsten Peterson, Kendrick Moxon, Jennifer Corson, Janet Whelan on the CPAPS board. These are whole infiltrated Scientology.
Oh, I didn't say my name. My name is Susan Price. Life expectancy for the unhoused is 48 years, compared to 78 years for the housed. 60% greater than the poor that are housed. I know that every single one of you are horrified, absolutely shocked and dismayed that with disgust that genocide has become a matter of fact. Tell me, do you realize that it's happening in the U.S.? Streets of LA County every day. The largest county in the U.S., 4,558 square miles. Okay, let's look at that vacant space where people could live. The city owns outright some of it, could obtain more. CRE, our commercial real estate, is showing a significant downward trend. The highest vacancy rate in decades. That condition says conversion to housing, and it is the cheapest, fastest way. And the governor signed SB 79. That's a match. Alliance v. LA, encampment reduction, housing, the unhoused must be moved off the streets to shelter or housing. That's as fast and cheap as possible. Like interim housing, okay? Not overnight shelter. Permanent supportive housing that leads to social housing and homeownership.
You've spoken on items 13 and 14, but the remainder of the items are REAP items, that's rent escrow account program items. So if you'd like to, you can speak to the REAP items. If not, I'm going to move you to general public comment, where you still have 1 minute.
Okay. The pressure is on. Stop the genocide in LA.
Okay, well, the first one is anything that Mr. Lee has put up, like, sometimes I agree with him, but I'm going to say vote no, because he owes me an apology, and he should know how to be polite by now. He's had plenty of opportunity to do the right thing, so we're still waiting. Then the one about the gentleman who is being appointed for the Housing Committee or Housing Commission, I just want him to know one thing. Well, I want him to know a lot of things. But one thing I really want the city to do is find a way to do a certain loophole in the law, okay? Like, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Serge Oblensky. He is somebody who, at 19, he played with some fireworks and blew off his hands and his eye while he was a Sea Org member with Scientology. So you would expect a certain religion or a church, whatever, to have compassion on him.
Speaker, I'm not saying how this is connected to item 14.
I want to educate Mr. Sia, if he's here, on something that needs to be done, because this person, I'll get to it real quick. He became unhoused because he was kicked out for being injured, because now he's a degraded being. You're not a degraded being because you're injured or you have a disability, but they believe so. So how do people get kicked out with $500 because now you're disabled, and now he became homeless for 10 years on the streets of Hollywood, on Hollywood Boulevard.
Okay, you've exhausted your 1 minute on item 14.
Okay, so you think he got the message? Same thing with all the different REAP houses or whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of housing. Like, these houses could be turned in for people like Mr. Oblensky, because like I said, he ended up on the streets, okay, with $500 and no arms and missing an eye, and couldn't fend for himself, okay? So the city could turn into these houses, right, as you're getting them off escrow or whatever, right, and turn it into housing for people who are tossed to the curb. It's not just Scientology. I'm sure there's other agencies, but this is the only one that I know of. They, like if it was today, it would be like Kirsten Peterson and Kendrick Moxon approving all of this, and it's not right. And so, I could go through all the REAP ones, right? So the next house, I would say too, you can really help. Oh, can I ask a question about the council, the am I allowed to speak on the group that spoke, the religious group, or is that not allowed?
So you can speak to that during general public comment if you'd
No,
like.
I don't want to. I want to see if I could do it as part of my, because they were up here. They're just not on the agenda, but you had them in front of you.
Stick to the items, or I'll move you to general public comment.
Okay, well, I think I should be able to talk to them, but if not, I want to know if smoke and scan things that we should be able to talk about them. They were
Move you to
here.
general public comment. You have 1 minute. Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. Okay. I'm here to say I went to the Faith in Blue event, okay, with Laura on Saturday. And it was at Hollywood Presbyterian, and it was a LA County Clergy Association. Well, no, it really wasn't. It was apparently a Scientology event. And when we just walked into the event, didn't do anything or anything. We weren't planning on doing anything. We were just there to enjoy it, even though we knew Scientology was there. But here they ran it. They told the police to kick us out because they didn't want us there. And guess what? We were kicked out for viewpoint discrimination because we are critics. And mind you, she was born and raised in this. And the city's being held, they are opening themselves up to liability because you cannot kick people out of an event when they haven't done anything. I wasn't trespassed. We're not trespassed, and it was a public event. And we were kicked. I mean, the supervisor in LAPD and Hollywood Division fixed it. We came in and had a lovely day. But you guys, by allowing all this, you are leaving yourselves liable to a lawsuit.
My name is
Y
Irma
soy miembro de
Cervantes,
Inner City Struggle.
and
Soy
I'm a
inquilina
member-
del este de Los Ángeles y miembro comunitaria del Distrito 14.
I'm a member of Inner City Struggle. I live in East LA, and I am part of. Perdón, señora, ¿se podría repetir?
Es hora de reformar Larso
It's time
y limitar
to
la
reform
renta al
Larso
3%.
and limit rent to 3%.
Le llamo específicamente al presidente del Consejo, señor Harris-Dawson, para que sea un campeón de la clase trabajadora y dé prioridad a Larso.
I'm calling specifically on President Harris-Dawson to be a champion for working class people and to make Larso a priority.
Pedimos que agendice Larso lo más pronto posible, después de que salga del comité de vivienda.
We are asking for Larso to be agendized as soon as possible after leaving the Housing and Homelessness Committee.
También invitamos a los concejales Nazarian, McCosker y Yarolavsky que se comprometan a apoyar la fórmula de Larso.
We are also asking for council members McCosker, Yaroslavsky, and Nazarian to agree to support it.
También me gustaría entregar estas cartas que contienen las prioridades que tenemos Keep LA House y más información sobre la fórmula y el por qué es importante que la apoyen. Muchas gracias por su atención.
I would also like to hand out this information from Keep LA House that speaks about why this is so important.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Why this is so important. Thank you so much.
Soy miembro de Inner City Struggle y vengo a dar mi comentario para actualizar el Larso
¿Me
y
permite?
no más renta del 3%.
¿Me permite?
Sí.
My name is Alicia Godinez. I'm a member of Inner City Struggle, and I would like for Larso to be updated and to cap the rent at 3%. Adelante.
También invitamos a los concejales Nazarian, McKenzer y Jarowski a que se comprometan a apoyar la plataforma de Larso. Agradecemos también su trabajo y ahora también es momento de actuar porque no
permite?
queremos más inquilinos desalojados. Por favor.
I am also calling on Nazarian, McCosker, and Yaroslavsky to support this because we don't need any more renters ending up evicted on the streets.
Debido a los altos costos de salud, desalojos y del ICE, no quiero ser un número más que quede desalojada.
Due to the rising cost of healthcare, rent, and also what's happening with ICE, I don't want to just be another renter that ends up on the street.
Agradezco mucho su atención y espero que no haya un aumento más del 3% y apoyen al Larso, por favor, y gracias.
Thank you so much. I hope that you cap it at 3% and please support Larso. Thank you so much.
It's time to reform the Larson cap and rent to the 3%. To the 3%, especially want to call on council president to the champion, your working class, and cap the rent at a 3% and strongly support item 5 to restore by funding to the State House LA program with existing 7-month contract ending in January.
So, morning, Grote. I'd like to do that thing where I ask you rhetorical questions that I know you're not at liberty to respond to, even if the Brown Act weren't applying. Why is it that we're looking at item number 14 on this agenda? No knock on this particular appointee, but back in June, this council voted on this exact appointee for this exact term running through 2030. Why has the mayor reappointed them? Why are we having a second vote 4 months later? The only difference I see here is this individual has now finally submitted their required ethics disclosures. Thanks to Councilmember Rodriguez and the voters of Los Angeles, our charter was amended last fall to require these filings before the council votes on these appointees. Yet for some reason, until last month, y'all just ignored that. You rubber-stamped appointees regardless of whether or not they followed the charter. This appointment is just one of many that we're now seeing come your way from the mayor. What does it say that 14 out of our 15 council members are willing to rubber-stamp appointees who violate our charter? I know you're all scared of the gruesome twosome and Marquise and Karen, but come on. Come on. I know you all love to wait until the last minute to take things seriously, but you do need to wake up. Our city is broke and broken, and the people running it into the ground are trying and succeeding in rat-fucking the Charter Reform Commission that's been set up to help you. What?
So, which item are you speaking to?
REAP.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to speak to the REAP items, or you can continue in general if you'd like.
I'm just kidding. I'll go to general.
Okay. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
I don't know if you read the LAist article last week about the Charter Reform Commission. There are a lot of things I try to set up. That wasn't me. That was the commissioners. They got that in there because they are sick and fucking tired of this. This council required that Charter Reform Commission to provide an outreach plan that this council could give feedback on, and that they would have a meeting in every single district. That outreach plan was provided 2.5 months ago, and the council president has yet to bring it to the full council so you can all talk about it. That document is now irrelevant because a bunch of the commission meetings have been converted to committee meetings. What does that mean? We'll be in CD7 this weekend, but only 3 of the commissioners will be there. Same applies to CD1, CD3, CD9. What do we see with all those districts? What's the difference between that district and Tracy's district, Nithia's, Tim's, John's? We say that poorer districts, the Latino districts, don't get the full fucking commission in front of them. Karen Bass appointed the least qualified executive director imaginable. Y'all need to step up.
Speaker, your time has expired. Next speaker. Good morning. You have 3 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general public comment. Go ahead.
Buenos días, pinche abogado baboso.
Good morning, fucking
Please pause
lawyer.
his time for a second. I'm sorry, I'll let you continue in just a second. Mr. Spindler, I know he's your friend. That doesn't give you the right to disrupt his time. So do not disrupt public comment. This is your first and only formal warning. If you do it again, you may be subject to exclusion and removal pursuant to Rule 7 and Rule 12. Go ahead.
Good morning, stupid fucking lawyer.
Gracias, pinche baboso. Esta junta de mendigos. Now to translate into Google. Smoke and scan, you got it? Good. Who is this Charlie Sia? And why is it taking 4 months and a second vote by this fucked up charter for filing your fucked up rubber asshole stamp to this appointee? Why is that? Does anybody know? How about you, FBI? Are you listening, Kash Patel, what these people are doing in Los Angeles? Where's Donald J. Trump?
So this is your last opportunity. I need you to stick to the items or I'm going to move you to general public comment.
Well, sir, I'm on housing. And like I said, I'll put it in English. Fucking housing and homelessness, landlord fucking notice for your fucking assigning to the Los Angeles fucking housing department, you fucking cabron, puto, to enforce your fucking staff, you fucking asshole, idiot, moron, stupid, incoherent fool, that the housing providers are here to assist me to navigate, you asshole, to understand that Padilla, who is Padilla? That's her. Am I right? And what about the juju that's not in her seat? Where's she at? Because this is to direct you about the LAHD fucking report, you fucking moron, idiot, stupid, incoherent, jackass.
So you're welcome to insult me, but at this point it is repetitive, which is not allowed under the Brown
I'm
Act.
getting
So stick
to the
the items.
feasibilities, jackass. Let me finish my
And you've
point.
exhausted your 1 minute on item 13. So please move on to another item.
All right, escrow asshole. How about those 4 points? Where's current price, you jackass?
On the agenda.
Yes, he is. There are 2 items on the escrow in District 9.
So speak to the escrow.
I'm speaking to the absentee councilman who faked his sickness.
Okay, I'm going to move you to general public comment. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Now into my non-agenda public comment. Going back to the N and C word, everybody. Hey, smoking scan, figure this out. In Watts, off 103rd, there's a community there in the ghetto called Nickerson Garden. Why was it that I was accused of using bad language by Juju Bob, smoking scan? Why, Bob, did that idiot McCocker, who's a cocksucker, run up there and tell that big fat head, pumpkin head, that I was saying something totally irrelevant to my constitutional civil rights of protection of my free speech? Because again, audience of Compton and Dominguez Hills, that fat piece of shit attorney up there under bar license 317-217 is a stupid jackass, a dirty motherfucker, and as Brandon
And your
Burke
time
says,
has expired. Do not disrupt this meeting. I will remind you as a courtesy that you are still on probation.
Yes, my name is Aida Araceli Rivera. I am a member of ACE, and I am a small landlord in my district.
Es hora de reformar Larso y limitar la renta al 3%.
It's time to reform LARSO and to limit the rent to 3%.
Le llamo específicamente al presidente del Consejo, señor Harris-Dawson,
I'm calling specifically on the president of the council, Mr. Harris-Dawson,
para que sea un campeón de la clase trabajadora de su distrito y de prioridad a Larso.
to be a champion for the working class of his district and to make LARSO work.
Con el fin del año acercándose y muchos recesos del Consejo en el porvenir, es sumamente importante que Larso se incluya en la agenda.
With the end of the year approaching and many council recesses approaching as well, it's important for him to give priority to LARSO.
Del Consejo el Pleno inmediatamente después de ser aprobada por el Comité de Vivienda.
For this to be approved after being, for this to be put agendized on the city council after being approved by the Housing and Homelessness Committee.
También invitamos a los concejales Distrito 2, Distrito 15 y Distrito 5 que se comprometan a apoyar la plataforma XLAH Larso. Agradecemos haber trabajado con sus oficinas en este asunto y ahora es el momento de actuar. Gracias.
Good morning. You have 3 minutes for the
All
items
the
and 1
goddamn
minute for
items.
general. Go ahead.
So let's see here. We have number 14, Charlie Kirk-Sia to the United House Citizens Oversight Committee. What the fuck is he doing? You got 3 men and 11 ladies out of 14 people. Where's the goddamn man? Is that what it is? You have United the House. You're not allowed to have a penis to serve on this committee. Is that what it is? Is this the DEI, Dick? Is that what it is? How come there's so many goddamn women? 11-3 in the goddamn commission. I don't understand that. I thought this council was about equality. That's what Imelda keeps telling me every day. Every fucking day. Then we get number 15, Nazarian, on a rent escrow account on West Riverside Drive. He's going to allow the landlord to get fucking paid. Let's give him a hand. Okay, good. Right on. And another one. He emancipated another one. This is on North Limp Avenue. That's a fucking nice area. So next time, when you're paying $3,000 a month rent and you see rats in your bathroom, call Jacoby and Myers. Jacoby and Myers. Isn't it about time? And then you have, let me see, CD3. Well, that's Blob Blobenbleld, the evil Jew. So he's over there getting West Roscoe. Oh, that's a shithole. Look at this, 19962 West Roscoe. That is a dirty, filthy, shitty street. You should pay people to live in that fucking shithole. So let's see, CD9, the 12-time indicted council member Curd Price. Look at that. Wow. Holy shit. He's got 12 felony charges. He goes back to court November the 3rd, and he's still getting paid. I love this
Speaker,
guy.
this is your only warning. Please stick to the agenda items, or I'm going to move to general public comment.
I am. What the fuck does number 18 say? Fucking CD fucking 9. And who the fuck
So then
runs
speak to the item,
CD9?
or you can speak to this during general.
Who the fuck runs CD9? Curran DeMille Price, the people versus. And who gets to decide who gets paid off on the item? Curran DeMille Price Jr. That's why it's on topic, Blob. Will you tell your lawyer to stop interrupting? And then we get number CD15, number 19. Well, that's the bucket head. Then we get another one on 20. They fooled everybody. Again, number 20, the 12-time felony indicted council member Curran Price. He's got another one here, and let's see, how much did 635 East 29th Street have to pay him off? So let's see here. You can't talk at the fucking meeting without this fucking lawyer interrupting you. You can't use the N-word. You can't use the C-word. You get banned from one meeting. You get kicked out 2 days meetings. When is the federal court going to step in with the injunction? When? When will this council be enjoined by a federal district judge? And when will this criminal lawyer up here be taken in front of the state bar and suspended pending an investigation? When? When the fuck are you going to do your jobs? Are you just going to sit here and let a poor, innocent little goat herder like myself sit here and be violated like this? Is that what it is? And finally, thank you, Imelda, for not wiping your nose all day. I'm glad you're getting that.
Speaker, your time has expired. Next speaker.
My name is Flor Estrada. I am an organizer with ACE, and I want to say to CD9, CD8, and CD10, I've been door knocking, and I've been hearing the #1 issue for renters is their rent. If they're worried, there's a state of emergency, they're scared to come out to work. So I want to invite you, council members, or your staff to come door knocking with us so that you can hear it directly from your constituents that it is a state of emergency at this point. So please put this on the agenda. ACE members and ACE will always be here every chance we get, and we will get public comment so that you guys can put this on the agenda and realize that this is a big issue for renters in LA. I also, from door knocking experience, State House LA's program, we need you to fund it and to keep it alive because this helps so many renters in LA. I cede my time.
Soy inquilino en hora del... Es ahora el formar Larson y limitar la renta el 3%.
Hello, yes, my name is Victoria Enriquez. I am a member of ACE. I am a renter. The time to reform LARSO is right now to limit the rent to 3%.
Le llamo específicamente al presidente del consejo, señor Harris-Dawson, para que sea un campeón de la clase trabajadora de su distrito y de prioridad a Larson con el fin de año.
Yeah, I am calling on the President of the Council, Mr. Harris-Dawson, to be a champion for the working class people of his district and to prioritize Larso.
Se incluya en la agenda consejo el pleno inmediatamente después de ser aprobada por el Comité de Vivienda.
And to have it be placed immediately on the council agenda right after having been approved by the Housing and Homelessness Committee.
Speaker, your time has expired.
All right, sir, come on up, quickly, stop disrupting the meeting, and come on up to the thing, podium.
Thank you.
You have 1 minute to speak.
1 minute. John Parker from the Harriet Tubman Center and on the steering committee of the Community Self-Defense Coalition. I just want to ask a question. Why is it that Los Angeles has a sister city in Israel, a genocidal city? And it's not just any city, it's a city that facilitates the military terror and Holocaust that's going on against the Palestinian people right now. So why does LA City have a relationship with them? You know, there's many Holocausts going on in the global south and the one that we know so well in Germany. And people are saying now, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you try to stop a Holocaust? And the genocide is still going on even though there's a supposed ceasefire. People are still starving to death, dying of health things. So you can sit there and do nothing, or you can put a resolution to say stop the city thing.
All right. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, what's before us?